Well, let me give you guys an in-depth analysis of what happened between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump in Alaska yesterday, which was on the 15th of August 2025. So when both leaders arrived, they first met, they shook hands, they spoke for a bit. I don't know the language they actually spoke. I don't know. When two of them met, we didn't hear what they were saying, but two of them were talking. So this makes me wonder if Vladimir Putin actually understands English. It seems like the man understands English, but he just refused to speak English. I don't know why. If you look at Russia 2014, he did some small video, and in the video he spoke English. And yesterday, even after the press conference, he invited Donald Trump in English. He said, "See you next time in Moscow." By the way, that was quite interesting. So when they met, both of them, they went straight to the cameras as usual for the press to actually take them pictures. That is what they do all the time. In fact, whenever two powerful leaders meet, they always go and stand in front of the press, and the press will actually take them pictures. Now, is Russia actually isolated? Because when Putin arrived, they rode red carpet for him. This doesn't look like Putin is isolated or Russia is isolated like the way many people suggest. They are not isolated. That is why I keep advising everybody that, you see, Russia and America, they are very powerful. So you have to be very careful when dealing with these countries. And that is why I agree with John Meshama. John Meshama once told the Ukrainians that, look, it doesn't matter whatever the West tell you, that you have your right, you have your right. Once Russia is a superpower, they are going to step on you and nothing is going to happen. And that is exactly what I see happening today. Because after the Russian invasion of Ukraine today, look at the same America that was, pushing for Russia isolation. Today, these two countries are sitting side by side and they are discussing, happily. In fact, yesterday, even after the press conference, when both leaders came out, they were both laughing. I think they have a very positive conversation. Both Donald Trump, when Trump came out, Trump was praising Putin and Putin was also praising Donald Trump. I think after the meeting, before the meeting, one journalist asked Donald Trump that, what if Putin refused a ceasefire? What are you going to do? He said he was going to sanction Putin. He said Putin cannot say no. But obviously yesterday they didn't actually agree on everything. Yes, that is what I've been able to gather. And yesterday, again, after the meeting, the Vice President of America also spoke to the press. I think BBC or something like that. One press. He spoke to them and he said the Russians were asking too much. That is obvious. That is how Putin actually works. Anybody who is familiar with Putin's style of meeting leaders, whenever Putin meets a leader, when he starts his conversation, he starts with history, making it very difficult for you to interrupt him or disagree with him. He always back his statements with historic facts. If you look at his interview with Tucker Carlson, you see, in fact, he took Tucker Carlson on a different path altogether. He started his conversation, how he built his point. He backed it up with historical facts. And that was exactly what happened yesterday in Alaska between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Quite interesting. And this morning, I'm coming. I want to read something to you guys. This morning, the European Union came out and released a press statement today saying that they support the meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, and they are looking forward for a trilateral meeting between Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and Volodymyr Zelensky. By the way, yesterday after the meeting, according to Donald Trump, he spoke to Zelensky as to what the conversation was about. We were not told, so I don't know what the conversation was about. By the way, I'm coming. I want to read what the Europe. Yes. So this is what the European Union said. European Union said European leaders are ready to work with Donald Trump and Zelensky on preparing a trilateral Russia-USA-Ukraine summit with support of Europe. This was stated in a joint statement by European leaders following the talks between Putin and Trump. We clearly understand that Ukraine must have unbreakable security guarantees to effectively protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity. We welcome President Trump's statement that the USA is ready to provide security guarantees, the statement says. Okay. This is the part that I have a problem with the European Union. The European Union claimed that they want security guarantees for Ukraine. But Ukraine already had security guarantees before this war started. Are you aware of that? In the beginning of the war, no, even before this war started, let's go back to the Soviet Union era, way back. After the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia was the only country that had more nuclear weapons more than Ukraine. So Ukraine received huge amount of nuclear weapons from the USSR. Ukraine was Russian darling boy during the USSR. So Ukraine received a lot of weapons from the Russians, including nuclear weapons. So Britain, America, and Russia came together and told the Ukrainians to give up their nuclear weapons. And in return, they were going to protect Ukraine. So Ukraine agreed and gave out their nuclear weapons. But there was an agreement that was signed between Russia, America, the United Kingdom, and Ukraine that in future, if any country attacks Ukraine, United States, America, and the UK will come and protect Ukraine. So Ukraine already had security guarantees. So Ukraine was already protected. So Ukraine was not a country that was vulnerable. The reason that Ukraine, you see, one reason why Ukraine is very, very important is because Ukraine is on the borderline of Western Europe and Eastern Europe, right? Ukraine, after Ukraine, you have Russia. So that is Eastern Europe, sorry. That is Eastern Europe. You have Russia, you have Romania, you have Moldova. Yes, so that is Eastern Europe. After Ukraine, you have Poland, you have Germany, yes, and that is also Western Ukraine. Western Europe. I don't know why I keep using Ukraine. Western Europe. You understand? So Ukraine sits on the border of Eastern Europe and Western Europe, and that is why Ukraine has always been an important country. In the Second World War, most of the wars were fought in Ukraine. They don't tell you this. Most of the wars in the Second World War was fought in Ukraine. Crimea used to be part of Russia. Today it is now part of Ukraine. Then the Russians took it back. Do you know that Second World War started from Crimea? The Germans invaded the Russians from Crimea. And at a point, the Russians decided to give Crimea to Ukraine, right? And they have taken it back. So Ukraine is an important country. Very, very important. So there were already security guarantees for Ukraine. And one reason why Russia continue to see Ukraine as an important country to their security is because the Russians have been invaded multiple times through Ukraine. When you look at the history of Russia, the two most important or devastating invasions that actually affected them, which is the Napoleon invasion and Hitler invasion, it all came from Ukraine. So all these invasions came from Ukraine. So Russia sees Ukraine as a springboard for NATO to attack them. And trust me, part of these negotiations, the Russians will never agree to allow Ukraine to join NATO. That is not going to happen. So if the West and America really wants the war to end, I think they must compromise. I think they have to agree that Ukraine will not join NATO. That is one important part of this peace agreement. Because both parties must agree that Ukraine will stay neutral. In addition, all the territories that Russia has annexed, Russia is asking to take these territories, especially the Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast. So according to the Russians, they want to take these territories. This is part of the negotiation. Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast. You have, Kursk. No, not Kursk, sorry. Zaporozhye, Liman, Kherson, Bakhmut, Vuhledar. All these places, including Crimea, the Russians want to take all this part. And they also want to take Odessa. That is why the Vice President of America said the Russians are asking for too much. And, they are a bit hesitant. They are actually confused. They don't know what to do at the moment. So Russia is also asking to take, what is the name? Crimea. Not just Crimea. Yes, Crimea is already under their control. But Odessa, very good. Odessa. Odessa is also important to Ukraine. Because the Ukrainians export whatever they have in their country through Odessa, because that is where the sea is located. Now Russia wants to take Odessa from the Ukrainians, but Odessa is equally important to the Ukrainians because all the grains they farm in their country, they export all these grains through Odessa. Already Odessa port is under the control of the Russians. At a point, the Russians allowed Odessa to be controlled by the Ukrainians, I think in the beginning of the war, because of food security in the whole world, because UN intervened that the Russians shouldn't attack Odessa because they export food, grains, wheat through the Odessa port. And at a point, the Ukrainians started using the Odessa port to attack Russian fleets in the sea. So the Russians, somewhere in 2023, I stand to be corrected, but I think 2023 or 2024, in between, the Russians told UN, the whole world, that they are not going to allow Ukraine to export any grains through this port again, because Ukraine was using these cargo ships that are meant to take grains from Odessa. They were using these cargo ships to attack their fleets in the sea, especially in the Black Sea. So they decided to actually cancel that deal, and they warned the whole world that anybody who sends cargo, they are going to attack it. And they did attack some of the ships that were coming through Odessa into Ukraine. And another reason why the Russians want Odessa so bad is because when you look at Odessa in the sea, they share border with Romania or Moldova, something like that. I think, I stand to be corrected, but I think it's Romania, right? They share border. And that is where NATO fleets are located. Back in the days, the Russians, their border was all the way back in, Crimea. But if they take Odessa, that means the Russians, their border with NATO will now be in Odessa, right, with Romania. So that would give them an advantage to actually shift the borders back. And that is why the Russians also want Odessa badly. And the Ukrainians also want Odessa. So there are some territories which the Russians are asking for, which it is very difficult for the Americans to say yes or no. Because if they say yes, that means Ukraine is going to be a landlocked country. And as we know, the Americans also gave a lot of loans to Ukraine. Remember, all the weapons that America sent to Ukraine was not free. It was loan. Joe Biden sent these weapons through the Lease Act. The Lease Act was first introduced to America in the Second World War, which was signed by President D. Roosevelt. So when Roosevelt signed this Lease Act, meaning the president or the government can send weapons to a country at war without Congress approval. But these weapons must be paid back. So at the moment, Ukraine is owing America billions of dollars. Ukraine total debt, I think, it is close to $1 trillion. And another problem is this part, or most of the part that Russia has annexed from Ukraine, these are the richer part of Ukraine. This is where, all their resources, most of their resources, the oil, the fertile lands to grow food, this is where most of these lands are located. So if Russia is taking all these lands from Ukraine, how is Ukraine going to pay back their debt? Yes, other part of Ukraine, yes, they are resources, but not at the level that, the likes of Crimea and Odessa possess. All this part is richer than the other part. And now this part, the Russians are asking for it. Ukraine owes America. America at a point have to get back their money. All the weapons they give Ukraine, they have to get the money back. Now Russia is asking for the richer part. So this negotiation, it is quite difficult for both sides, because America agreeing to Vladimir Putin's request means that Ukraine is gone. And rather unfortunate, that is the direction or the point that we are all heading to. It's unfortunate. And Trump also made some important statements after the meeting. He said Russia have great firepower. He said the Russian military, or they have a bigger military, and their willingness to fight is at the top. These guys, it's not just about their army, but it's about their belief. It's about their ideology. If you look at all the two wars, the Napoleon army invasion and Hitler invasion, both Napoleon had more weapons, powerful weapons more than the Russians. The Nazis, Second World War, they have more powerful weapons more than the Russians. But the Russians' ideology, their mentality, they will fight till the last man. That is who these guys are. What makes the Russians dangerous is not just about their weapons, but it's also about their willingness to fight. That makes them very dangerous. So these guys, they don't just give up easily. If they are fighting for something, they will fight till the last man. They will fight till their last breath. So that was what by the way, I'm not the one who said it. It is Donald Trump who said it. I'm only explaining it to you guys. Donald Trump said these guys, their willingness to fight is at the top. These guys, they can fight to the last man. That is who they are. I saw that interview on BBC. I hope I'm not mistaken. Yes. After the press conference, yes, BBC interviewed him, and that was what Donald Trump said. Yes, so even let me backtrack a little bit. So after Vladimir Putin arrived, after they took pictures together, they all sat in the same car. they all sat in the same car, which is the Beast, the American presidential car. And there was some commentary on Telegram by Russian media. So the Russian media, some of their commentators, social media commentators, claim that the main reason why Putin decided to sit in Trump car is because Putin is afraid he's not going to sit in a single car in case they decide to take down Vladimir Putin, meaning they have to take Vladimir Putin together with Donald Trump. Meaning if they send a bomb, any missile to attack Vladimir Putin, that means they have to unalive both Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. That is why Putin decided to sit in the same car with Donald Trump. By the way, I don't think that is the main reason why, but I just said it will be interesting for me to share with you guys. That is what I saw on Telegram. That is what many people are saying. Quite interesting development coming from Alaska. Well, Putin has returned back to Moscow, and Trump has also returned back to Washington. So during the press statement, Vladimir Putin said it was his idea for them to hold the meeting in Alaska. Vladimir Putin also said if Trump was the president of America, this war wouldn't have happened. He also said America and US relation is in all-time low after the Cold War. That is actually true. After the Cold War, United States and Russia has not actually, or their relation has not been this low before. In fact, most of the agreement they had together, most of it they violated it, right? Most of the nuclear agreement both countries had, right, during the Soviet Union era, they have violated most of it. Most of the agreements are not in place again, which is a bad thing for all of us. If the United States and Russia are not in good terms, it is not bad just for United States. It is bad for the whole world. It is bad for all of us because these are the two most powerful countries on earth militarily. Russia have more nuclear weapons more than any country, second by America. If they even decide to use a quarter of the nuclear weapons that they have, the whole world will destroy. All of us are going to perish. There will not be rain, there will not be food, nothing is going to work for the world. So, when these two countries, when things are not going well for them, it's not just about them, it's also about the whole world. All of us, we are going to feel the impact. All of us are going to suffer. So it's not just about these two countries, right? So good. So let me also read this for you guys. This is what Zelensky, personal advisor, said. Zelensky advisor Lukashenko stated that Kiev rejects Trump's proposal for negotiation. This is a vision that can be subject of discussion. Our vision is first a ceasefire and then everything else. Why? Because if negotiations are held before establishing a truce, it creates serious risks of blackmail for Ukraine. So meaning, according to Zelensky spokesperson, even before this meeting, there was supposed to be a ceasefire on the battlefield before this meeting took place. That is what Zelensky spokesperson is saying. And something interesting also happened. Before the meeting, Ukrainians launched drones into Russia, but the Russians were able to shoot most of these drones down. Now, the question is, why would they do something like that? According to many experts, they claim that Zelensky is doing that to actually sabotage the meeting. We all know, even before the meeting took place, Zelensky was running helter-skelter across Europe. He held over 33 meetings just to prevent Donald Trump from reaching a conclusive deal, right, on Ukraine. Well, according to Donald Trump, after the meeting, he did call Zelensky and they spoke. They spoke, by the way. Well, I think that's the most important part. By the way, before we go, this is what Germany is saying. Germany said the fact that if Trump and Putin agree on transfer of Ukrainian territory, then all NATO countries will become Russia. So most European countries, by the way, most Europeans are not in support of Donald Trump allowing Russia to take these Ukrainian territories. So most European countries hate that idea. They are against it completely. So they keep telling Trump not to allow that to happen. But in reality, looking at the meeting, looking at what both parties said, I think Donald Trump has already agreed to all these territories. The fact is, it will be very difficult for Ukraine to take back these territories. It's either they solve this in military, or it's either they stop this war through political means, or they solve it through military means. And that is going to be on the battlefield. And we all know the outcome of that on the battlefield. Therefore, it should be like this. If Ukraine has to transfer territories, it should happen. Well, there's no need for me to read everything, by the way. I think the most important thing is Germany saying that if America allows Vladimir Putin to take Ukrainian territories, then that means the whole of Europe will become Russia. I don't think that is going to happen, because I don't think the Russians also want to escalate things. Note, war has a price. When you read the Act of War, General Sanchu said, when it comes to war, both sides suffer. That is the fact. When it comes to war, it's not just about one side. Note, right now, the Russians, they are using their money to build weapons. This money, they could have used it to actually develop their country. But here they are, wasting all this money on war, which is not benefiting them in any way. War is horrible. War is dangerous. So when it comes to war, I don't think any country at all benefits from war. So the Russians also want an end to this conflict. So it's not just about Ukraine. No, everybody wants this war to end. But I think one main reason why the Europeans is against this particular truce or this particular negotiation, because they thought all the conversation is going to center upon Ukraine transferring their land to Russia, right? Why they are against this whole thing is because they told their people that, look, let's sanction Russia, everything is going to be okay. So at the end, if they allow Russia to take all this territory, meaning Russia has won, meaning Putin has won, because the aim of Putin was to annex all these territories to become Russian lands. So at the end, if America allows the Russians to take these all territories, what did Europe gain? Nothing. After wasting billions and billions of dollars in this war, at the end, all these territories will be Russian territories. What did they gain from it? So I think this is the concern of Western Europeans, and I think they have legitimate concern, because they have really suffered. In fact, European economies are currently hurt. European economies are not doing well before this war. If you look at European economies, it was doing far better than today because of this war. This war has affected the economy so bad. And at the end, whatever Putin wants, if Putin gets it, what did they gain? Absolutely nothing. So, well, we've been speaking for the past 30 minutes. So, guys, let me use this opportunity to once again thank all of you. To all our subscribers, in fact, you have done extremely well. If you have watched this video till the last end, my humble plea would be, please hit on the like button, like the video, and also subscribe to the channel. I've told you guys that I'm going to be giving an in-depth analysis on this platform. I'm just starting this whole long analysis, so I'm not perfect in this whole thing, but gradually I'm going to be better very soon, because I just started this whole thing on YouTube here. It is not easy to create contents like this, so the only way you can support us is to hit on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. So guys, one important announcement. You see, I have changed the name. Let me remind you guys, I have changed the name from African 360 to Timo Media, to not Timo Media, to Timo 360. The reason why I decided to change the name from African 360 to Timo 360 is because there are a lot of channels on this platform called African 360. At the time I was creating this channel, I didn't realize that. I was not aware that there were a lot of channels on this platform called African 360. I had no idea. And some of you drew my attention to this particular thing, that I should change the name, and that is why I decided to change the name, because when you search for African 360, different channels appear. So that is why we decided to change the name. So I apologize to all of you. So guys, shalom. See you guys in the next episode.